Hello, everyone. It is I, your American salaryman, Dash Bright. I have returned. This time, truly with a guide for Cloud. If you have been struggling playing with him, or struggling figuring out what to do as the character, you know you've seen an opponent be incredible, but then you have a teammate and he is absolute trash. I'll bridge the gap in knowledge there for you. I'll help you understand what exactly is the cause of the issue, and or how you should be thinking about how you play this character. So I got your back. Stay tuned. How you should be thinking about Cloud as a character is, what is my role in the game? I think when you play any character, this is the first question you should be asking yourself, specifically because your role in the game changes as you play. For a character like Cloud, he has multiple roles. And sometimes you need to be filling other people's roles in order to actually achieve consistent victory. So what I mean by that is essentially what classification you are and what you have the utility to do. So to start, this is Cloud. I'm sure everybody knows Cloud. So he's categorized as what I like to call a brawler. Specifically, what I mean by brawler, if you play a lot of MOBAs, you already know what I mean. A brawler is a durable frontline fighter with objective potential and the ability to defeat rivals. So brawlers are what you would call a frontline. So this means that Cloud is a threat to anyone with sustain, or without sustain, and durability. Brawlers often have CC, otherwise known as crowd control, such as cross slash and finishing touch, and burst damage, such as Braver and Omni Slash. As you can see by his stats, Cloud benefits from 125% of your attack damage, 70% of your defense, and 100% of your HP scaling. Cloud is well poised to position in front of allies and set up an opportunity to pick off rivals. This is massively important because a lot of your gameplay is going to be making sure that there's space between you and your backline. That's the job of a brawler or a frontliner. So he's able to pick off rivals, or when you're ready to burst, with his extra 15% boss damage, he can break beyond his limits and deal devastating blows to bosses. Finally, his unique skill Ascension. This skill is capable of dashing straight to, or in a straight line, and at its end, throw all rivals or monsters collected during the dash up in the air and further tossing them in front of him, which will give him an opportunity to chain into another ability or to disengage if he chooses. So all these options truly make him a melee that is first class. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at his skills. He is Earth Element, so any skills with Earth Element gain a 5% bonus to stats, for the stats that he has. He's a melee, categorized as ease of use 3 stars, which generally means kind of middle of the road, not too hard, not too easy to use, I think. Pretty sure it's either 3 stars is super easy or 5 stars. I'm not sure. He's got 4 unique abilities, all of which are very strong. I'll go ahead and talk about those in order here. And his unique Ascension, like we mentioned earlier. His passive is a Sword Entrusted. He increases damage dealt to bosses by 15%. And of course, it has some suggestions about his fighting style, and then his kit, his costumes, and the background of the character. So what I want to break down really quickly is the skills he has. These are really important. I want to, every video that I'm going to make for character guides, I'm probably going to include the character's unique kit, so unique all abilities, and then later on down the line, I'll make an ability guide of generics that are good for them. Generics that are good for them, that either job medals or teammates that work well with him, and rivals that do not, or rivals that are difficult for him to face in a matchup. So let's go ahead and go on to the next section here of the doc. All right, so I want to break down how you should be thinking about matches when playing characters. So to start, I'm going to talk about the phases of the game. So what you should be doing at each phase, in other words. I'm still working on phases, so for now, I'll describe them as a rough outline or as what I think is the most important parts of each match. That could change at any given time. So don't expect me to keep this format the entire time. It's kind of still being cooked or in the process of cooking. All right. So to start, first we want to consider the beginning of the game, what I call the boss arrival phase. As a frontline fighter, you should be positioning for two of the most important objectives in the game. These objectives arguably, by default, can win you and or potentially carry your games. So these are the two most important things you should always be doing from the beginning, the boss arrival phase, throughout the entire game in order to get yourself in a position where you or your teammates can carry the game. So this is a team-based game. You can carry, but it's not going to be without the help of your teammates most of the time. So sometimes the stars align and they do something useful and it wins you the game, but most of the time you want a coordinated team. First, I want to talk about the first most important objective in the game, which before boss's arrival is going to be your first base crystal. The base crystal essentially is the most important objective in the game due to how much experience the actual crystal gives, and on top of that, the fact that it gives the most brave in the game. Base crystals are extremely powerful and should be absolutely exploited at every chance that you can get. There are a lot of characters that actually function way better with base crystals, and the experience from the main base boss, but right now we want to focus in the perspective of playing Cloud. So with Finishing Touch, you have, in my opinion, the best wave clear character unique ability at your disposal in the game. This is a 28-second knock-up AoE attack with 7 hits at 80% damage potency for a total of 560% damage potency, give or take due to defense. It is a multi-hit ability, so defense will subtract off each hit. This will usually give you level 1 for the crystal clear, or 1 level per clear, usually by the game as it scales, and 2500 brave to each player. If a player is knocked out, it will split 7500 brave between 2 players. So the crystal gives a flat amount of 7500 and then divides it equally among all players in the field. So that's a bit of knowledge that we can talk about in mechanics later, but for now, this is the most you can get from crystals. That's extremely important to understand. If you're able to get your base crystal and steal enemy base crystal, that is consistently, that is the best way to carry your games. Not only is it double the experience, but it's also more brave. So back to the second most important objective in the game. So second is middle crystal, but probably not for the reason that you might think. Middle crystal is not only pivotal for brave farming, but it's also usually the site of the first skirmish. What I mean by skirmish is essentially a quick fight which will then be used to gain advantage. It's different from a pick. So those are two different things. We'll go ahead and talk about them later. So this can gain or lose you the lead in the game. As a brawler, Cloud excels in this environment. It's what he's made for. It's what his 100% HP scaling is for. Essentially, either with an agile ally along with Braver, which Braver is a 1-hit 500 potency attack, which is also a dash, you can finish off low HP foes, or with Cross Slash, which is a 3-hit 250 potency attack each for a total of 750% potency with a 5-second stun as an additional effect on each hit. So with Cross Slash and a ranged ally who can help you set up a pick with a solid coordination, you can essentially gain the advantage for the rest of the game, as long as you continue to play consistently. For those of you who are not familiar with what the term pick means, essentially a pick is a strategic defeat of an enemy player to gain a numbers advantage on said team. So in this case, we're essentially setting up a coordinated strike on one target in the middle of the skirmish so that we're able to get the brave advantage and burst as soon as boss arrives. Speaking of boss's arrival, the next section for this is going to be the boss spawn phase. So the ideal scenario after the arrival of boss is that you actually made a pick and or contested most of the crystals and got most of the brave to then immediately burst boss, if not chain, with a teammate on boss. This is what you should be doing on boss arrival. If you are in higher ranked and or tournament play and you have not had burst by the time boss arrives, you are now playing on the back foot. That's unfortunately how the game functions. It is a they win or we win or no one wins. You have to essentially pull the win out ahead of two enemies, boss and the rival team. So once he spawns, the ideal scenario is that you have burst immediately, and preferably you chain with a teammate. Depending on your play in the previous phase, you should be able to burst or be near bursting. So should you be unable to, your secondary role in this phase is to deny rivals burst. So this is a huge, important part of your character. Cloud is one of 3 characters that actually has the ability to completely shut off a player's stun or a player's burst. So this is essentially what Cloud excels at. You need to be doing either of these things to carry a game. If you find yourself having a lot of empty space and not having a lot to do, you're not playing Cloud correctly. You have always something to do. It's a list of priorities, and you have to order those priorities based on what phase of the game you are and your player location. If you are not near opponents, you are not playing melees correctly. At least not this melee correctly. So to continue, I'll cover the burst phase separately in this case, just because it's a whole nother section of this specific video or this specific doc, or stream if you're watching on stream. So for now, let's just focus on what to do when boss arrives. So your role again is two-sided. Cloud is one of the few champions who can guarantee a burst denial and score with substantial boss damage. So this means you are responsible for stopping rival bursts and are responsible for scoring on boss. In this case, or in this terminology, we're going to differentiate scoring from bursting. So let's continue with that terminology in mind, okay? So while guaranteeing that even if you are stopped from scoring, that you still have a massive lead and impact essentially on whether or not your team is winning the game. So just to read that again, because I know I stopped to mention something there separately. This means you're responsible for stopping rival bursts before they can meaningfully score on boss, while guaranteeing that even if you are stopped from scoring, you still massively impact the lead. So again, you have 15% extra boss damage. Every little bit from you helps win the game. No matter what, as long as you're attacking boss, even if you only get 2 abilities off, you're still going to be MVP at the end of the game with the most boss damage, period. So let's go ahead and kind of define and detail what scoring on boss means and how you're going to achieve this, okay? So scoring on boss doesn't just mean your burst. It means your team's burst. You are the frontliner in the game. You are the melee. You essentially are responsible for allowing your teammates to have an environment to safely burst. So besides your own burst, you have the responsibility of frontlining for the team. This means eliminating threats, protecting teammates, and all that other stuff. So your burst is not the only one that is essential to win the game. In DDFF's format, every burst counts. You can peel for teammates, zone out rivals with AoEs, or push enemies back with your skills. So I have a list of abilities and or skills that you can use to do that. So let's start with Ascension. So Ascension actually allows you to use your skill in order to push enemies in a direct line in front of you. You could either push them, dash past them if you know how, knock them up, and connect with essentially another skill, or escape a scenario. Cloud has an immense amount of mobility. Ascension is a huge part of that mobility. So it's a great tool to force enemies to unfavorable positions, either by flinging them away or toward a location that you want them to be at or want them to stand at, such as an outermost beam or off a bridge. You also have the ability to catch speedy agiles with Ascension, should you be able to aim it properly. So this is a little bit more on the harder side to do. It's really up to latency, your own personal skill, and your ability to do so. But it's pretty useful. It's probably one of the best uniques in the game, in my opinion. There's a lot of uniques in the game that are very good. Ascension is like one of the top tier ones. It is a crowd control skill and a dash at the same time. The utility and the options you have for this are insane. We've all seen the chain videos of Ascension chaining someone from one direction to the other, and continue that chain over and over. So the next skill that's extremely useful to do this, to protect teammates, in order to zone rivals out, and in order to push enemies back, is Finishing Touch. Finishing Touch can clear waves to get allies that much needed Brave or Burst. It can knock up rivals to give allies much needed breathing room, or to frame trap enemies into another ability once they come out of their iframes or their ability usage. It's a long-term knockup. So what that means is when you use the ability and activate it, its duration is so long that should an enemy stop using an ability or iframes in the middle of it, they will still be picked up and knocked away. So Finishing Touch is great, and it may even be buffed at the end of the season. That's massively important. I think so, at least. If it gets a potency buff, this move will be unrivaled. Cloud will be using this all the time. Should be using this all the time. So Cross Slash can be used to hold down a rival, attempting to steal or deny burst from a currently bursting teammate, or set picks, which we've already defined as essentially a way to strategize with a teammate in order to knock out a rival and get a numbers advantage on them to score on boss. So Cross Slash is extremely useful, but you really have to be careful how you use it. There's some times where you need to hold Cross Slash in the middle of your burst so you can deny a rival who could win the game for his team after your own burst. It feels bad, but it wins the game, so it's worth doing. Then we have Omni Slash. You should really only be using this to hit boss. I gotta mention that because it's a very cool move. It's awesome to delete someone with Omni Slash, I'm not gonna lie to you. But it feels really bad to your team and to you when you can't hit boss very hard. Omni Slash is a huge chunk of your damage. Every other ability will score anywhere around 84k on boss to 120k. Omni Slash will do somewhere around 250 and up. It is very hard hitting and a huge part of your rotation. Even if you only get one move off on boss and it's Omni, you did your job. It's really that simple. Hey, what's going on, Sigma? I'm glad you're here. So I was about to cover that, actually. Sigma makes a really good point. So Omni Slash can also be used in a very dire situation to erase a threat entirely. Or, with the hit stun that it actually provides due to how many hits Omni Slash does, you can hold one enemy or rival down long enough for a teammate to complete their burst and save their burst entirely. So Clouds do use Omni Slash for PvP sometimes, and sometimes they use it with one brain cell and essentially it just whiffs and or doesn't kill anyone or kills someone and they die immediately after. You should only be using Omni strategically ever in a fight. If you're not going to survive after the Omni, if the Omni's not going to achieve the goal you want, don't use it, just die. It's not worth it. It's a massive part of your boss damage. Ah! Gotcha. Dash by jump scare. I started editing this video, and I just wanted to let you know that it was taking too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into two parts, so it's easier for me to edit and faster for you to see, so that you guys can start using the stuff that I essentially wrote for the guide and the doc in the video. If you want the doc, if somebody just leaves me in a comment or messages me on Discord, I can pass that along to you too. But for now, I'll cut this into 2 videos. The first one you just saw. I hope you enjoyed it. It took a lot of effort and a lot of time. The second one should be done at some point next week. I won't date it just because I realize now how hard it is to actually edit. Well, I'll see you guys later. If you want to check out more content, you can always go to my YouTube. I do Twitch streams on Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern if you want to go ahead and check those out. But yeah, have a good one and expect the second part soon. Thanks.